Welcome to a night on Nevada's Highway 50, a stretch of road so lonely and desolate that locals call it the loneliest road in America. But tonight, it's not just the darkness you need to fear. Something sinister lurks in the fog. A phantom semi-truck that appears out of nowhere, gliding silently, watching, waiting. Every mile traveled brings new horrors, shadows that move unnaturally, whispers over the radio, and figures that vanish the moment you look directly at them. This is not a tale for the faint-hearted. Join us as we dive into the chilling story of one driver's terrifying encounter with the unexplainable. A night of suspense, fear, and survival awaits on Highway 50. I've been a truck driver for years, and I've driven through nights that would make most people's skin crawl. But nothing prepared me for what happened on Nevada's Highway 50, the loneliest highway. That night was pitch black, the fog thick, and I was alone on a stretch of road so empty it felt unreal. Then, in the distance, I saw a faint light. At first, I thought it was another vehicle, but as it got closer, I realized it wasn't ordinary. It was a semi-truck, but unlike any truck I had ever seen. Its headlights flickered on and off, but there was no visible driver. The windows were black, as if there was nothing inside. The truck glided silently along the highway, moving like it was alive. I honked my horn, tried to pull aside, but it stayed right beside me. My heart was pounding. I knew this truck wasn't normal. For several miles, it followed me. No matter how fast I drove, it stayed close. I turned on the radio, no signal, just static and a faint scratching noise. I tried my phone. No cell service. It was as if the highway itself had been made for this truck. The next morning, I read reports from the department. Multiple drivers had disappeared along this highway over the past few weeks. No one knew where or why, but those who had seen the truck claimed the same thing. No driver, moving silently, and something unnervingly wrong about it. Curiosity and fear battled inside me. I decided if I ever saw that truck again, I would follow it. But what I didn't know was that this truck tests the human mind and spirit, and once it decides you're its target, there's no forgetting it. That night, Highway 50 became more than just a road for me. It became a field of trial, and I knew whatever was about to happen would not be simple. The night grew darker, and my fear kept building. I knew the truck was no ordinary vehicle. Every mile I drove, it seemed to test me, pushing my nerves to the edge. I could feel it watching me, every flicker of its headlights like a warning. "You're mine." Suddenly, it sped past me on the right. I squinted into the black windows. Still no driver. But this time, I saw shadows inside. Faint, twisted figures with hollow eyes, staring without blinking. My stomach turned. I slammed on the brakes and swerved to the side. But the truck slowly came around, positioning itself behind me, as if the road belonged to it. My hands shook, and my heart raced. Highway 50 had turned into a trap. Then, over the radio, a sound came through. Not static this time, but a whisper, distant yet clear, calling my name. "Driver!" My pulse jumped. I realized this truck wasn't just a vehicle. It could sense fear, and every wrong move could cost a person their life. I tried to pull out my phone, no signal. The metallic, smoky scent of the truck filled the air, thickening with each second. Could appear anywhere, at any time. I just kept driving, praying it wouldn't follow too closely. For the first time, I understood the rumors. Highway 50 wasn't just a lonely road, it was a testing ground. And that night, I knew the real nightmare was just beginning. The night grew deeper, and Highway 50 seemed to twist into something unfamiliar, something alive. The truck was getting closer with every mile, testing my courage and resolve. Every horn, every flicker of its headlights, felt like a challenge. "You can't escape me." Suddenly, it appeared on my right again. The windows were still black, no driver in sight, but now I saw passengers. Shadowy figures, faces blurred, eyes empty and unfeeling. They stared at me, and my gut told me that one wrong glance could be fatal. I slammed on the brakes, but the truck circled behind me, controlling the road itself. My legs trembled, my hands froze on the wheel. Highway 50 had become a living trap. the radio crackled again. This time, it wasn't static or whispers. It was a soft, growing moan, a voice calling my name. "Driver, you're here." My chest tightened. I realized the truck wasn't just a machine, it was something supernatural. It sensed fear, measured it, and every hesitation or mistake could be deadly. I tried my phone, still no signal. The metallic, smoky scent in the air thickened. The truck could appear from anywhere at any time. All I could do was keep driving, hoping it wouldn't catch up too quickly. That night, Highway 50 became more than a lonely stretch of asphalt. It had turned into a battleground. And I knew the terror was only going to grow, and nothing would ever make this road feel safe again. The fog thickened, and the night air grew colder. Every mile I drove, the truck seemed to anticipate my moves, shadowing me perfectly. I could feel its presence, a silent weight pressing down, daring me to make a mistake. Suddenly, it was right in front of me, blocking the road. Its headlights glared into my eyes, and for a moment, I could swear the shadows inside the cab shifted, almost as if they were alive. I slammed the brakes and sat frozen, my hands gripping the wheel. Then, without warning, it vanished. The road was empty, but the metallic, smoky smell lingered. My pulse raced. I realized this truck wasn't just following me. It was toying with me, studying me, testing my reactions. I tried to start my engine and drive past where it had been, but it reappeared immediately, as if it had teleported. The radio hissed to life again, and the whispers returned, louder this time, clearer. "Driver, don't run." Panic surged through me. I knew I couldn't outrun it, not on this highway. I had no choice but to confront it, to face whatever this phantom semi really was. My mind screamed for logic, but the road offered none. Every instinct in me told me to flee, but I knew one thing for certain. This was no ordinary night. Highway 50 had become a testing ground for something ancient and malevolent, and I had just stepped into its trap. I could feel my hands shaking as I gripped the wheel tighter. The fog swirled around the highway like a living thing, and every shadow seemed to stretch toward me. Then, without warning, the truck appeared on my left, moving impossibly fast, as if it had been waiting for me. Its headlights cut through the darkness like blades. I could see the faint outlines of the shadowy figures inside again. They weren't just passengers, they were watchers waiting for me to falter. My heart pounded in my chest, and I realized running was no longer an option. I tried to accelerate, but it matched my speed effortlessly, sliding alongside me like it knew every inch of the road. The radio burst to life again, this time with a distorted voice, urgent and hollow. "Driver, it's your turn now." A chill ran down my spine. I realized the truck was more than just supernatural. It was intelligent, malevolent, and hungry for fear. Every instinct screamed at me to stop, to give in, but I knew if I did, I wouldn't survive the night. The road ahead twisted and narrowed. I swerved to avoid an illusion, but the truck mirrored every move, never missing a beat. The metallic, smoky smell grew overpowering, thick in my lungs. I gasped for air, realizing it was testing me, probing my limits. Somewhere deep inside, I understood I wasn't just on Highway 50. I was inside a trap designed for a single purpose: to measure courage, fear, and sanity. And so far, I was failing. The night seemed endless. Every mile I drove, the fog thickened, and the shadows of the truck's figures seemed to reach closer. I could hear a low humming now, vibrating through the cab, a sound that wasn't coming from any engine. I tried to keep my mind clear, telling myself it was exhaustion or imagination. But then I saw it, objects on the side of the road shifting as if the truck's presence warped reality. Rocks seemed to roll by themselves, and the faint outline of figures appeared among the trees, vanishing when I blinked. The truck reappeared ahead, impossibly close. Its headlights flared, and I could see one of the shadowy faces pressed against the glass, staring directly at me. I shivered, my stomach twisting in fear. The radio crackled again, and the distorted voice returned. "Driver, you can't escape." I realized then that this truck wasn't just testing my courage. It was invading my perception, warping the world around me. Every instinct screamed to stop, but I knew stopping meant surrender, and surrender meant something far worse than fear. I gripped the wheel tighter, forcing myself to focus. I had to find a way to outthink it, to anticipate its moves, but nothing in my experience could have prepared me for this. Highway 50 had become a living nightmare, and I was trapped in its center. The road twisted unpredictably, and the truck mirrored every turn with impossible precision. I could feel the tires skimming inches from my own, the air around me thick with tension and that metallic, smoky scent that seemed to cling to my skin. Suddenly, I saw movement in the shadows on the roadside, figures darting between the trees, following the truck. They weren't alive in any ordinary sense. Their motions were jerky, unnatural, like puppets controlled by an unseen hand. My pulse raced. I realized they were extensions of the truck itself, scouts or warnings, guiding it, herding me down the road. The radio crackled violently, a chorus of distorted voices calling my name, overlapping and echoing in impossible directions. "Driver, stop! You're too late." I slammed my brakes and skidded into a patch of fog. When I looked up, the truck had vanished again. For a fleeting moment, I felt relief, until headlights flared in the fog behind me. It was waiting, always waiting. Panic clawed at me, but I forced my mind to reason. The truck wasn't bound by ordinary physics. It was something else entirely, a predator feeding on fear, measuring my every reaction. If I wanted to survive, I had to anticipate it, to move not with speed, but with calculation. Every instinct screamed for me to run, yet I knew the truck thrived on panic. I had to stay calm. I had to outthink the impossible. The night was far from over, and Highway 50 had become a chessboard, and I was already in check. The fog thickened into a wall, and visibility dropped to almost nothing. Every shadow seemed to stretch across the road like reaching hands. Then, without warning, the truck appeared directly in front of me. Its headlights blazed, and I could see the faint silhouettes of those shadowy passengers, their faces still blurred, staring at me with empty eyes. I slammed on the brakes and skidded to a stop, my chest heaving. For a terrifying moment, it felt like time itself had frozen. Then, as suddenly as it appeared, the truck vanished into the fog, leaving only the metallic, smoky smell lingering in the air. I tried to start driving again, forcing my mind to focus. The radio hissed to life with whispers. "Driver, you can't leave." My pulse raced. I realized this wasn't just a chase. It was a confrontation. The truck didn't merely follow. It controlled the environment, manipulating shadows, fog, and perception. Every instinct screamed to flee, but I knew fleeing without a plan would be fatal. As I edged forward slowly, I noticed something impossible. The road behind me seemed warped, curling unnaturally, almost as if the truck had reshaped the highway to trap me. My fear surged, but I forced myself to think. This wasn't about speed, it was about strategy. I had to face it directly, or the highway would consume me entirely. The fog seemed to thicken with each passing mile, wrapping around the cab like a living entity. The truck stayed just out of reach, sliding silently beside me whenever I tried to accelerate. I could feel it, a weight in the air, watching, waiting for the tiniest mistake. Suddenly, the shadows inside the cab became more distinct. Faces pressed against the glass, staring without emotion. They weren't human, not entirely, but they were aware of me. I felt their attention as if it pierced straight through my chest. The radio crackled violently. Multiple voices now, overlapping, whispering my name, laughing, urging me to stop. "Driver, stop. Give in." Panic surged, but I forced myself to think. The truck was testing me, yes, but it had limits. It mirrored my moves, anticipated my fears, but it wasn't omniscient. I began to plan, measuring every turn, every acceleration, every braking, trying to anticipate its next maneuver. But then, in the fog ahead, the road seemed to fold in on itself. Trees leaned at impossible angles, shadows twisted unnaturally, and the highway itself felt alive. I realized that Highway 50 wasn't just a road anymore. It had become the truck's domain, a hunting ground where my fear was the bait. Somewhere deep in my mind, a cold truth settled. I wasn't merely being chased. I was being evaluated. And if I failed, there would be no second chance. My hands shook on the wheel as the truck reappeared suddenly, cutting across the road like it had materialized from the fog itself. Its headlights burned through the darkness, and the shadowy figures inside seemed to lean toward me, watching every movement. I tried to accelerate, to outpace it, but it matched my speed perfectly, gliding alongside me with inhuman precision. The metallic, smoky scent filled the cab, thick and choking, and my heart pounded in my chest. The radio screamed to life again, a chorus of distorted voices overlapping, calling my name and laughing in ways that set my teeth on edge. "Driver, it's time." I swerved, trying to anticipate its next move, but the truck mirrored every action. It wasn't just following me. It was predicting me, feeding off my fear, calculating my reactions like a predator stalking its prey. Every instinct screamed to escape, but I realized there was no normal escape route. Highway 50 had become a labyrinth, and the truck ruled it. I had to find a new strategy, not speed, not luck, but cunning. One wrong decision could end everything, and deep down, I knew the night had only just begun. The fog pressed in from all sides, thick and suffocating. Every shadow along the highway seemed alive, moving just at the edge of my vision. And then, as if drawn by my panic, the truck appeared directly ahead, blocking the lane entirely. Its headlights flared, casting long, twisted shadows across the asphalt. Inside, the figures were clearer now. Faces blurred but somehow distinctly cruel, hollow eyes fixed on me. My stomach twisted as I realized they weren't waiting. They were choosing me. The radio erupted again, voices screaming and whispering all at once. "Driver, surrender. It's too late." I gripped the wheel tighter, forcing my mind to focus. Couldn't let fear control me. Not yet. The truck was more than a machine. It was an entity, alive in some unnatural sense, and it thrived on terror. I tried to outmaneuver it, swerving sharply, braking suddenly, but the truck anticipated every move. I realized then that Highway 50 wasn't just a road. It was a testing ground, a predator's domain, and I was the target. I had to make a decision. Keep running blindly, or confront it. Find a way to survive against something that bent reality itself. My heart raced, but I knew I couldn't stop. Not yet. The highway seemed to twist unnaturally beneath my tires, every mile dragging on like hours. The fog clung to the road, thick and suffocating, and I could sense the truck's presence even before I saw it. Then it appeared on my left, sliding silently beside me. Its headlights cut through the darkness, and the figures inside leaned forward, faces distorted, almost mocking. My stomach churned as I realized I wasn't just being chased. I was being studied. Every twitch, every glance, every beat of my heart was measured. The radio crackled violently, overlapping voices screaming my name, pleading, taunting. "Driver, it's your choice or the end." I forced myself to breathe, to think. The truck wasn't just following me. It was controlling everything. The fog, the shadows, the perception of the road. Each instinct screamed to run, but I understood now that panic was exactly what it wanted. I had to stay calm, to anticipate its moves. I needed a plan, a way to survive that went beyond speed. Highway 50 was no longer a road. It had become a battlefield, and I was caught in the center of the predator's domain. The fog thickened to a near-solid wall, and the road ahead seemed to vanish into darkness. I could feel the truck's presence pressing from all sides, a force that bent the very air around me. Every instinct screamed to stop, but I knew stopping meant certain death. Suddenly, it appeared right behind me, its headlights blinding, shadowy figures now pressing against the glass as if to escape the cab. I slammed the brakes, but it didn't slow. It moved with impossible precision, sliding closer with every second, its presence overwhelming the senses. The radio screamed again, voices overlapping in a horrifying chorus. "Driver, you can't hide, nowhere to run." Panic surged, but I forced my mind to focus. The truck wasn't just chasing. It was probing, learning, and feeding off every flicker of fear in me. I realized then that Highway 50 had become a sentient trap, and the truck was its guardian, its enforcer. I gripped the wheel tighter, my eyes darting through the fog, searching for any opportunity, any weak spot. There had to be a way to outthink it, to survive. But the night was far from over, and I understood the truth. Whatever was coming next would test me in ways I could never have imagined. The night had grown impossibly dark, and the highway seemed alive beneath my tires. Every shadow moved unnaturally, twisting and curling like hands reaching for me. Then, the truck appeared directly ahead, blocking the road completely. Its headlights blazed, and the shadowy figures inside leaned forward, faces distorted and cruel. I slammed the brakes, heart hammering. For a moment, the world seemed to pause. Only the truck remained, waiting, patient and malevolent. Then, as if deciding my fate, it vanished, leaving the metallic, smoky scent hanging thick in the air. The radio burst into life one last time, a chorus of whispers and distorted voices. "Driver, this is your test. Survive." I forced myself to focus. There was no more running. The truck had made its purpose clear. It wasn't merely a chase. It was a confrontation, a trial of courage, fear, and will. Every instinct screamed at me to flee, yet I knew I couldn't. I had to face it, to outthink it, to survive the impossible. Highway 50 was no longer just asphalt and fog. It was a crucible, and I had just entered the fire. The fog swirled around me, thick and suffocating, as the truck reappeared directly in front of me. Its headlights flared, blinding, and the shadowy figures inside pressed against the glass, faces twisted in silent menace. My heart raced, and I knew this was the final test. I gripped the wheel tighter than ever, forcing my mind to think clearly. The truck mirrored every move I made, anticipating, calculating, feeding on my fear. The radio screamed with overlapping voices, a cacophony of taunts. "Driver, surrender. It's over." Then, in a moment of clarity, I made a decision. I accelerated straight into the center of the highway, refusing to swerve, refusing to panic. The truck lunged alongside me, but this time, I stayed calm, steady, meeting its challenge head-on. For a few heart-stopping moments, it felt like the world itself held its breath. And then, as suddenly as it had appeared, the truck vanished into the fog, leaving only silence and the metallic, smoky scent lingering in the air. I slowed, hands trembling, staring down the empty highway. Highway 50 stretched ahead, quiet, seemingly ordinary, but I knew the truth. The phantom semi still haunted this road, waiting for the next driver, the next fear to feed on. And I had survived, but I would never forget. The night was over, but the memory of the truck would linger forever.